My goodness, that is a fun video, isn't it? Hey, so when I was in college, I almost got kicked out for a very good reason. I'm about to tell you, against my wife's wishes, honestly. She said, I don't think you should tell that story. I'm like, I'm going to. She's not here right now, so it's all right. When I was in college, now, and you need to understand at first, I went to what's known as a Bible college. It was a Christian college, Christian Bible college. So it was really filled with a whole bunch of people that are primarily going to school to do ministry. There's like a few other majors, but mostly it's everyone's doing ministry. And there were a lot of rules. And I know that this is a common theme with a lot of Bible colleges because after the first service, lots of people came up to me and they're like, did you go to this school? Did you go? Because that was mine. And I was like, no, I think they're just a lot alike. There's rules like we had a curfew at night, right? We had girls couldn't be in the boys' rooms, the boys couldn't be in the girls' rooms. We couldn't even sit in front of the doorway of each other because you just never know what you might see, all right? We just had all kinds of rules. And they were all well-intentioned. We had dress codes. We had just all sorts of things. But, no alcohol, of course. Doesn't matter how old you are. What ended up happening is you get a bunch of guys together who are just trying to get really creative on things to do. And one day, a group of us, we decided to go on a road trip. And so we were in Florida, and we went to, one of my roommates was from Tennessee, so we drove up to Tennessee to go camping for a couple days. It was a great trip, but while we were there, we saw this thing as soon as you crossed the state line, because that just made us like, we have to stop. Basically, in Florida, at the time, I don't know if it's still this way, but fireworks were illegal, and they were not in Tennessee. In fact, they had giant buildings. If you ever drive to South Carolina, it's the same. It's the first thing you see. And so we got up into Tennessee, and we were like, we have to stop. And so we did, and it was just like, how much money we just spent all of our money. We had no plan for these. We didn't know, we saw the opportunity, and we hopped on the opportunity and just bought an insane amount of fireworks. We had our road trip, it was great. They sat in the back of the car, probably not safe, but we did that. We came home, and then we just took the fireworks. Again, we had no plan for them, and they just went into a closet, into the back side of a closet, and they just sat there for months. Every once in a while, we look at them and we think, I wonder what we could do with these. And then one night, it was late, very late. And in my opinion, not much good happens after midnight. Like, there's just not a lot of good that happens after midnight when you have college students, and really any of us, honestly. And we had this idea. What we had learned was if you forgot your key to your apartment on campus, you could just take a butter knife and you could go to the window in the front and you could just pick it, and you could just reach over and open the door. So I said, what if we went to one of our neighbors and we opened the window. Breaking and entering is what I'm describing right now. And we opened the door, and then we set a smoke bomb off in their apartment. Now, 4th of July is coming, you may have little smoke bombs. That is not what we purchased. We purchased like industrial-sized smoke bombs. And to be safe, to make sure that they woke up, we set off 3. I don't know what we were thinking was gonna happen, but what happened is probably what you're thinking happened. They thought their apartment was on fire, and they came out and they're coughing and there's smoke. It was bad. And because my roommate is from Tennessee where fireworks are legal and everyone knows, it's a small school, that we took a road trip to Tennessee, it was not very long before they knew who had done it. And my goodness, we were in so much trouble. And at the time, my wife, who I was just dating, she said, what were you thinking? She's like, I wasn't thinking. There were 4 college 19-year-old guys, and they're like half a brain between us. No one is thinking. No one's thinking. And this idea, we were just a bunch of fools. And Proverbs, where we're going today, speaks to this. And so this is our key verse. This is a memory verse that if you're memorizing verses with us every week, this is the key verse, and it is Proverbs 13:20. Here's what it says. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Can you read this with me? Because it's a great verse. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. That is so true. And if you're older, if you have kids, or even if you can think back to being a teenager, you can remember your parents telling you, don't smoke, don't chew, don't go with girls who do, right? Don't hang out with those people because those people are going to rub off on you and they're a bad influence on you, right? And we see that. I can look back, I can look at my kids and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really want you hanging out with that person. I can think back and I'm like, you don't really I shouldn't have been hanging out with that person. Another way that we say it in student ministry all the time is this: your friends determine the quality and direction of your life. This is the most true statement for all your friends. Your friends determine the quality and direction of your life. And it's so true when we're young. You can think back. You're like, yeah, I seem to do better in the test when I was with the study group who studied all the time, right? And I tend to do bad things, and I was a fool when I was with this group of people. Your friends determine the quality and direction of your life. Is 100% true. And when you're young, what's interesting is much of it is just circumstantial relationships and just happenstance. One of my sons is in high school, and he's got a friend, and I said, he's a good kid. And I just said, hey, what's going on? You guys used to hang out all the time. Like, I'm not seeing that, your friend very often. He said, we're just not in the same class anymore. I was like, you've been friends for years. Yeah, but we're just not in the same class. We don't see each other, so we don't, don't talk. I was like, that's weird. But then I think about me when I was in high school, and when I graduated, there was no social media. There was no one had really cell phones. And it was I graduated with a whole bunch of friends, and then I never saw them again. They were just gone. And so that was kind of people's experience in a lot of ways. As adults, though, we like to think that that's all in the past, right? We're smarter and we're better than that. But I don't think it's actually very true. Because many of us, the people we hang out with are the people we work with. The people we hang out with are the parents of the kids on our sports teams. The people we hang out with are our neighbors. And it's always amazing to me when I meet someone and they're like, yeah, our neighbors, we just hang out all the time. And I'm always curious, were you friends before and you decided to live next door to each other? Oftentimes, most of the time, that's not the case. You just happen to live next to this person and you just happen to become friends with them. Many of our relationships, even as adults, are just circumstantial. They're just happenstance. And the truth is, as an adult, your friends still determine the quality and direction of your life. Even as adults, the people I surround myself with, if I surround myself with fools, harm is going to come to me. And if I surround myself with people who are wise, I make wise choices. It's amazing. It's very common sense. But here's the thing. I think in today's age, it's very difficult to do that because especially today, I think it's hard to know who is wise and who are the fools. I'll give you an example. Right now, I have in my driveway, there's some of the concrete in my driveway is broken. My wife says, you should go hire someone. And I say, that's too expensive. I can do it myself, right? So I'm I'll just go to the source of all knowledge, YouTube, and I'll just watch a video. How hard can it be? And so I literally have gone and watched the video. This is 100% true. Watched the video, and it was this concrete guy, I don't know, expert on concrete. He's here's what you should buy. Here's what you should not buy. Here's what you do. Here's how you do it. I was awesome. Great. I bought all the stuff. And then before I did the work, I watched another concrete video by another concrete guy that gave 100% opposite information. It was don't use this product. I was I have that product in my garage right now. You should do this. And I was I don't know. So it's a project that's just currently sitting undone because I don't know who's the fool, who's the person I don't know. It's very, very difficult to identify where you should go, especially in today's age when you can literally just hop on your phone and broadcast your opinion and pretend to be an expert. And then it comes to your phone, it comes through a video, and you're oh, is this, I don't know. Should I listen to this person? Should I not? It's not as easy just to determine who's wise and who's not. So that's what we want to do today. Hopefully, by the end of today, you'll have some steps to be able to take to identify who are the fools in your life and who are the wise in your life. And then how do we spend more time with those people who are wise? To begin with, I want to kind of define some of this because when we talk about a fool, it could be a lot of different things. And so it's helpful if we all get on the same page. All right? A fool, here's the definition we're going to go with. A fool is a person who knows better but makes the unwise choice anyways. Right? They know what they should do and they know what they shouldn't do. And the things that they shouldn't do, they do anyways. Right? We all know people like this. Some of us are people like this. I certainly was. I just told you a story about it. Right? We sometimes make the foolish choice, but some people make that choice all the time. And to confound things, we really celebrate as a culture foolishness, don't we? Who doesn't love a good fail video? Who doesn't love watching someone try something they just man, they're going to try to do a backflip and I just know this is not going to work out, right? And they're going to do it over and over again. We look to foolishness as entertainment. Proverbs 18:2 says this, "Fools find no pleasure in understanding, but delight in airing their own opinions." Right? Fools are not looking to understand what's happening in the context of what's happening around them. Instead, what they're doing is they're looking to air their own opinions. They're basing their opinions on nothing, and they're just doing it over and over and over again. A wise person does something and they fail, but then they learn from it. And then they change what they're doing until they win. A fool doesn't do that. They're more interested in airing their own opinions. And we live in a culture that is driven by content, isn't it? Everyone's got a phone. Everyone's looking for content. Everyone's looking for the foolish thing so that they can get famous. They can get, TikTok famous. They can become an influencer by the stupid things that they do. And I was trying to think of a good example of this, and I thought, oh, wow, this is just the most apparent example of it is not all of them, well, maybe all of them, all of the reality TV shows, right? How many of us are watching dating like Love is Blind, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette? Do you think those people are really on that show for love? No. They are trying, it's a game show, people. They are trying to win. They're trying to get famous. Maybe some of them are looking for love, but most of them are not. It's entertainment. And so we have turned foolishness into entertainment. And we're watching people do it over and over again. This verse, Proverbs 26:11, says, a fool, and Trevor used this last week, but it's just so good. A dog returns to his vomit, so fools repeat their folly. Isn't this true? I have a dog, and sometimes he gets sick. He'll eat things that he shouldn't, and he gets sick. And if I'm not careful, before I can go get stuff to clean it up, it's gone. Like magic. Where did it go? And I know where it went, and I regret at those moments ever letting my dog lick me in the face. It's horrible, right? That's what a fool does. They repeat their folly over and over and over again. And so we want to identify those people. Even as I'm talking, there's probably names that are popping in your head. You're like, yeah, I got that friend, total fool. I know that person, total fool. And we want to just make sure that it's not that we can't be connected to them, we just don't want to surround ourselves with them because you end up in a really bad space. The next category of person are the simple. And the simple believe anything. They are trying to be wise, but they don't have sufficient knowledge or experience. They'll just believe whatever because they don't have the experience behind them to make a wise decision. It's not that they're trying to be malicious and they're not trying to do the wrong thing. It's just that they don't know any better. 90% of the time, you and I fall into that category of the simple. And it's not in all circumstances, right? There's some things that I feel very wise in, and there's other areas like concrete that I feel very simple in. I just don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And so even as we're looking at Proverbs 13, there's, fools and there's the wise, but there is this third category. And we're just very, very simple in it. Here's what Proverbs 14:15 says. It says, the simple believe anything, but the prudent give thought to their steps. The simple believe anything, but the prudent give thoughts to their steps. The simple are just basing decisions on not much because they just don't have much to base it on. I'll give you a couple examples. 2010, if you can think back to that, some of you were very young and some of you were not as young. But 2010, something took place. Bitcoin became a thing. Bitcoin, for the very first time, it was created in 2010. And when Bitcoin was created, it was worth 0.003 cents. So less than a penny. You got to buy 3 Bitcoins for a penny, right? Now, at that time, really none of us, maybe some of you, I don't know, maybe some of you knew about it, but I didn't. And a year or two later, I did hear about it. And I was tempted to buy some at $4 a piece. And I thought, I thought I was going to do it just as a gag, like as a goof. Like, I'll buy 5. I'll spend $20 and buy 5 of these things. And then I'll just tell people, hey, guess what I own? I own nothing. I own a currency that's backed by nothing, right? And then the wisdom in me said, you know what, you probably shouldn't waste $20 on just a gag that probably no one's going to find funny. Now, had I done that, my Bitcoin today, my 5 Bitcoins that I spent $20 on, would be worth over $300,000. Wow. Now, am I a fool because I didn't buy that? No, not at all. I'm not a fool. I was trying to make a wise choice, but I was simple. Maybe there were people at that time, probably there were people at that time that knew what was going to happen with it. I just wasn't around those people. I didn't know. I made a choice. I made a simple choice. I wish I could go back in time a little bit and do that. Now, on the other hand, for every instance where you're like, I wish I could go back and that thing, there's instances like what happened to me about 20 years ago when I went to a friend's house and he said, hey, I got to show you something. And this particular friend, every time he said, I got to show you something, it was probably never a good idea. It was like something that, it was just like he was always had these little side hustles, these little side ideas. So he said, hey, come see my gun safe. I said, okay. So we go over, he's got a big old gun safe, and I'm expecting him to pull out like a rocket launcher or something, you don't know. Opens his gun safe, and there's just stacks of money in it, like a lot of it. A lot of it, just stacks and stacks. And I thought, is this how you tell me you're a drug dealer? Because I'm not interested in that. But it wasn't. He said about 20 years ago, if you remember, we had a war, the Iraqi war, and in other countries, they oftentimes will reset their currency. So they'll have a currency, and they say, hey, we're not using that currency anymore. Now we have a new currency. And that's what happened in Iraq after the war. And so my friend bought $1 million worth of Iraqi dinar. And now that's a lot, and it looked like a lot. But it was worth, right? Bitcoin was 0.003. Iraqi dinar, what he bought it for was 0.0007. Far less than even a Bitcoin when it came out. And his rationale was, if this even goes up to be worth a penny, I just made a lot of money. It's like, oh yeah. And he's like, do you want to buy some? I can tell you and I was like, no, I don't. I don't. Now, just for fun, he's not living in a mansion right now, so I was pretty sure it did not go up. But I looked up what the value of it 20 years later were. Surely it's gone up. It is worth 0.0007. It has not gained any value at all. It is worth less than a piece of toilet paper. I'm just letting you know that. And if you want to buy some, you can go on eBay and buy some for $1 million of Iraqi dinar today for not very much money. Now, was he a fool for doing that? No. He was trying to make a wise choice. But again, he didn't have the information. Most of us spend most of our time in this category of simple. Then we have the wise. The wise is who we want to surround ourselves with. And here's the definition we're going to go with for the wise. The wise, they have knowledge and experience that have shaped them. Wisdom and experience, or knowledge and experience have shaped them. They have seen that. They have seen some things. They've experienced some things. And now they have wisdom. They have wisdom from their experience. They have wisdom from their knowledge. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're old or that they're up in age. You can be wise. It's just you've had some experience that you've learned some things from. And that's who we want to surround ourselves with. Proverbs 12:15 says this, "The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice." The way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. Wise people don't just make decisions on their own. They listen to advice. And when we surround ourselves with people who listen to advice, guess what we do? We listen to advice from those wise people. That is who we want to surround ourselves with. That's who we want to look for, to be with. When we first moved to Athens about 12 years ago, my wife and I, we were in our early 30s, and we decided to join a community group, like many of you are in our community groups. We're in a small group. And so we joined a group as we were coming in. Group Link or Group Launch, whatever we called it back then, had just happened. Groups had just formed. And so graciously, we were added to a group, and they just said, hey, just so you know, this is a multi-generational group. And you and your wife are early 30s, little kids. You're the youngest people in the group. And we have some people that are in their 30s as well. We have some people that are in their 40s. And we have a few couples that are in their 60s. And we said, great, that sounds wonderful. We didn't really know. We'd never been in a group like that. We didn't know what was coming our way with that. Would we have anything to talk about? Turns out, yes. And for 2 years, every week, we had this weekly dose of wisdom when we would just come around. It wasn't on purpose. It wasn't planned that way. But just when we got around these older people, the wisdom just fell off onto us. One example is one of the people in our group was a guy named Tim Waters, and Tim might be here today. Tim's fantastic. He and his wife were in our group, and we were, we had little kids, and so my wife and I, we were tucking our kids in, and we were talking about bedtimes and things, and Tim just said his kids were, they're up and grown and out of the house, and he just said, hey, I wish we had never stopped. You prayed with your kids to tuck them in. I wish we'd never stopped praying with our kids. They got to be teenagers. They didn't really want us to do it, but I wish we'd never stopped. And so my wife and I heard that. He wasn't trying to drop like a wisdom bomb on us. We just heard it, we caught it, and we said, oh, well, let's never stop. And so we haven't. And I can't tell you the difference that has made. I can't even measure it, the difference that it's made in my family's life. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. My daughter is a junior at UGA, and when she's, during the school year, she's got her own apartment. She calls us just about every night to pray with us. My boys, who are both in high school, they still pray with us. And it's an opportunity for us to connect with them and check in with them and find out what's going on with their heart. It is the best practice that we have implemented. And it was I think it was just this side comment that Tim was making. When you surround yourself with wise people, you catch wisdom. It's incredible. So to finish our time, it's enough to know, hey, we need to hang out with wise people, but how do you find those wise people? Right? You can identify people as fools. You can identify people as simple. You can identify people as wise. But how do you find them? And so I want to just give you 4 things that I think are helpful for you to find wise people. And first thing is you should ask God. Ask God. This is a big deal. Go to God with this. God wants you to have wise people in your life. God wants you to have Christian wise people in your life who are speaking truth into your life. So it makes sense that that's the first place that we should start. We should start with God. And I can tell you this happens because it happens often in my life. Something comes up, I need to make a decision, I don't know what to do. I go to God. God, I need someone. And without a doubt, God connects me with someone. Sometimes it's through somebody. But we find wisdom, but we go to God first. So go to God, be praying about this. Daily, you should be praying about this, especially if you have a decision, especially if there's things in your life that you want to improve. Go to God with it. The second thing is you should seek a mentor. We go to God, but then we should go to each other. You should find a mentor, and you shouldn't, let me just tell you, one time I was told like this, you should go find a mentor. I was like, oh, I should. So I found someone that I respected, and I asked, would you be my mentor? To which they said, no. I don't have time for that. And the truth is, any good person that you should want to be a mentor, they probably don't have time to be your mentor. Now, what I should have asked was, hey, I got this thing that I'm trying to figure out. Would you spend 20 minutes on the phone with me? Could we go grab coffee? Could we have lunch? Could I just text you some questions and bounce some things off you? I bet I would have gotten a yes. And I've gotten a yes from lots of people about that. And most people, when you are asked, hey, would you have coffee with me? I have some questions about some things. Most people are more than willing to do it. So go find a person who has the knowledge that you need, who's got the life experience that you need, and just ask them, hey, would you share some of your knowledge with me? And then do it over and over and over again. And over time, when you ask and ask and ask and ask and ask again, what you will find is that person is now your mentor. You trick them into it a little bit, right? That's how you do it. But find those people. And not all mentors are equal. Not all mentors are equal. Not everyone is equally wise in all areas. So find the people. You should have multiple people like this in your life. But find those people and ask. The next one is go to the Bible. This is really important. We really encourage you guys to read and be a part of our reading plan. And for those of you who have a habit of reading the scripture, reading the Bible on a regular basis, you already know this to be true. But for maybe the rest of us who don't, and you're like, yeah, I think it'd be a good thing, but I don't know. Is it really applicable to my life? Is it really helpful? Absolutely is. Because when you go to the Bible, what you will find is there are people that are written about in the Bible. You read about David, you read about Elijah, you read about Peter, you read about Paul, you read about Noah, you read about Jesus, and we go on and on. And when you read their stories, what you begin to find is that you feel like you know these people. And God is speaking to you through their stories, and you're actually spending time with them. And I know this to be the case because several of you are readers, and you would say, oh, I feel like I know Harry Potter, right? You feel like you know Katniss Everdeen, from the Hunger Games. Many of you feel like you know Taylor Swift just because you read about her all the time. Isn't that true? You don't know them. They're made up people. Well, not Taylor Swift, but you don't know them, but you feel like you do. And when we go to the Bible to read, we can be mentored through those stories. There's a great book called The Divine Mentor by Wayne Cadero, and this is the whole premise of the book. The whole premise of the book is that you can be mentored by God through the Bible. And it has a whole system on how to do it. And I would really encourage anyone. It's a simple concept, but he really teases it out in a really compelling way that if that's an area that you're like, yeah, I need to grow in this, I would start here. Now, the last area that I want to encourage you to find wisdom is by serving here or joining a community group. I just know the numbers. A lot of you serve and a lot of you don't. A lot of you are in community groups and a lot of you aren't. And I would encourage you to be a part of a group. I've already shared the importance of a group that it's played in my life. It is indispensable. And I will make time for it every day of the week, every year of my life to make sure I have a community group. Now, we'll have community groups forming in August. We have Growth Trilogy groups. I think you can go online and sign up for phase 1 today. But even if you're waiting until August to join a group, you should be thinking through, how do I carve out time in my week? What day is going to be best for me? It is well worth it. The other side of it is serving. And I'm going to put just like a shameless plug. Here's a QR code. You should scan it now and sign up to serve. Now, here's the thing. When you serve here, it is helpful, right? I lead Upstreet. It is so helpful to have people who serve. We need people like you to serve. But it is helpful for you. Because just put your head on a swivel and just look around the room. Just quickly, like seriously. Like look around. There's a lot of people in this room. There is not an issue in your life. Not an issue in your life, not a problem in your life, not an area that you are looking for advice, that someone in this room, probably multiple people in this room, have an answer, have some kind of wisdom that they could share with you. Absolutely 100%. All of our collective growth points, all of our collective problems, within this room, the answers lie. But how do we connect that way? Well, we can connect into small groups. Small groups are small. You connect into serving. There's 300 people that serve every week in Upstreet in our elementary ministry. You get to know those people. You begin to find out, oh, they are a business professional, and I need to learn how to, I have interest in that. They're a great parent. I need to learn from them. And it's an opportunity for you to grow and connect with them. It's incredible. And I'm just telling you, you get to be wisdom for each other. Proverbs 27:17 says it like this: as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And when you get together in a medium-sized group, like a service team here, you just bump up against each other and you sharpen each other. There are areas that you're simple and you meet people who are wise. And there's areas where you're wise and other people are simple. And just by bumping up against them and serving together, you will become more wise. I just promise you. I see it every week. And then you can do it today. Literally, you could sign up and next week you could probably be serving somewhere. It is helpful to serve here. We need that, but it's helpful for you. It's really helpful for you. To wrap up, I started today by telling you a story about me being a fool, and I thought I would end by telling you a story of someone that's walking with the wise. Not me, but someone really close to me. About almost a year ago, last August, my oldest son, who's going to be a senior, he was playing football. He was a linebacker for his high school varsity team, and he was playing football, first game of the season, playing the rival high school. Everyone was just amped up. Everyone was really just really intense. And towards the end of the game, he made a tackle. Now, I've watched the film on this probably 100 times. It is a very unremarkable tackle. It is not anything special. It's not like, oh man, I see how that happened. No. He made a tackle, good shoulder tackle. He went down, the person came up on top of him, and as he went down, his head slammed against the ground. Turf is just concrete underneath it, by the way. And so his head slammed out. He knocked him out, passed out on the field. We went down, my wife and I were like, ran down there, came to, and he was clear he was just really dazed. It's clear he had a concussion, right? In our house, unfortunately, we have a lot of concussions. Our kids go hard all the time. So we're kind of familiar with it. So, hey, we'll take you to the hospital. We'll just kind of make sure, because you passed out. That's kind of a bad concussion. So we go to the hospital, and we're laughing, and we're joking, and they're doing all the things. In his uniform, it's uncomfortable and all that. And then they scanned him, and things all of a sudden got really, really serious. Because we went from being like, it's just a concussion, you'll be fine, a couple weeks, you'll be all right, to, hey, he's actually has a brain bleed. And I was like, I actually don't know what that means. So, of course, I go to the source of all knowledge, not YouTube this time, but Google, the other source. And I look up and I'm like, oh, like he's got a chance of dying, like a real chance of dying. Like it's a high percentage. And things started to go kind of fast. They put him in a neck brace. They put him in an ambulance. They rush him off to CHOA in Atlanta. And his mom and I, we were just kind of like shocked and trying to figure out things. And he was in CHOA for several days. And watching him, he's in the trauma unit. And thankfully, he was all right. He was all right. He made it and he recovered. It took him months to recover. It took him really a long time. But one thing is the doctors, well, just so you know, he's not playing football anymore. His days of football are over, if you're wondering, not playing. But he was cleared to go play the sport he actually loves even more, which is lacrosse. He's the goalie for the high school lacrosse team, the varsity team. He's pretty good. And so he started into the season. It's like kind of winter, spring season, and they're playing. And then this past May, it's not quite a year between the two, but this past May, he is playing the rival high school again. Now, we actually had played them before, but it was at our home field. It was an intense game. It was a great game. So it was a rematch, and it was the second round of the playoffs, and the winner was going to go to the Final Four for the state. So there's a lot riding on this game. A lot of fans. It's an electric environment. Some of you I know were there. It was incredible. But I'm in the stands, and I'm giving people high fives, but I didn't realize that, and I knew my son was nervous, but I didn't realize how just upset he was. Because this was the first time that he'd been back on this field where he almost lost his life. And that alone just had him rattled. Just absolutely had him rattled. And he prayed before the game like he always does. He kind of walks the field. He did all the things he normally does. And it just wasn't working. And so luckily, he's got a friend who is a little older, a little wiser, who has gone through some things himself. And he made a suggestion. And this is a picture of it. He said, I think we need to go to the place where you got injured. I think we need to go find the place on the field where you got hurt. And I think we need to pray over it. I think we need to take this back from the enemy. I had no idea this was happening. It wasn't until even after the game when I was looking through photos that we came across this and I was like, what is this? He said, oh yeah, Matthew just made this suggestion. I'm so glad that my son has wise people that he walks with who would say, you know what we need to do? We need to go pray about this. It worked. They played a great game. It was good. But that's really secondary because when you walk with wise people, you become wise. Can you imagine having a friend like Matthew? Can you imagine being a friend like that to somebody else? Can you imagine what it would do to your finances if you went and found a wise person who could then speak into that situation that you're dealing with? Into your marriage, into your parenting, and just your relationships, into your work life. Can you imagine what that would be like if you went and found somebody who could be wise, could be wisdom into your life, and you surrounded yourself with several of those people? What difference would it make? It'd make a huge difference. I'm going to pray for us, and I just want to encourage you. Go find some wise people. I'm telling you, look around. The room is full of them. The room is full of us. Let me pray for us. God, thank you so much. Thank you for giving us Proverbs. It's so practical. It is a thing that we can read over and over and over again, and it makes such a huge difference in our life. God, I pray that we don't just hear these words, but then we'll put some steps to it, that we will put these things into action, that we would identify what areas do we need to grow in, what areas do we need wisdom in, and that we would go to you, God, that we would go find people, mentors who can speak into these areas. And they're not necessarily friends, they're just connections that we can then go to, that we would go to your word and seek out what you have for us there, and that we would be able to utilize this amazing tool of a church that we have. We have a big church full of great, wise people. And we would be fools not to take advantage of that. Lord, I pray that we will take these steps. I pray that I will take these steps. God, you're incredible. We thank you. We love you. In your name, amen.